This is Professor Rob from Touro College. We'll be looking at Chapter 4 in our ethics class, and it is titled Ethics and Ethical Reasoning. Tonight's key learning objectives: define ethics and business ethics, evaluating why businesses should be ethical, knowing why ethical problems occur in business, identifying managerial values as influencing ethical decision-making, recognizing how people's spirituality influences their ethical behavior, understanding stages of moral reasoning, analyzing ethical problems using generally accepted ethics theories. So the meaning of ethics: ethics is a conception of right and wrong. Conduct tells us whether our behavior is moral or immoral, deals with fundamental human relationships, how we think and behave towards others and want them to think and behave towards us. Ethical principles, guides to moral behavior. Business ethics, application of general ethical ideas to business behavior. Sources of ethics: notions of right and wrong come from many sources: religious beliefs, family background, education, community, neighborhood, media influences. These experiences create a concept of ethics, morality, and socially acceptable behavior in each person. It acts as a moral compass, an internal beacon to guide an individual when ethical dilemmas arise. We now move to slide 5. Ethical relativism, concept which holds that ethical behavior should be defined by various periods in time and history, a society's traditions, the special circumstances of a moment, or personal opinion. Meaning given to ethics would be relative to time, place, and circumstances and the persons involved. There would be no universal ethical standard of which people around the globe could agree upon, and which is quite dangerous, because if we just base it on what is relative to the time, if the time period is a cruel one, if we lived during the times of Genghis Khan and we're using Genghis Khan or Attila the Hun's ethical, and I put that in big quotation marks, ethical procedures and ethical ways of living, obviously they would be anything but ethical. So it's quite a dangerous thing to hold of. We now move to slide 7. 5 key reasons businesses should be ethical to meet demands of business stakeholders. About 3/4 of employees surveyed in a 2007 poll believe their firms are considering the environment, employees' well-being, and the interests of society and the community meeting demands of stakeholders is a good business. To enhance business performance, researchers should show linkage between ethically responsible behavior and favorable corporate financial performance. This imparts trust, promoting positive alliances among business partners. Now, one of the other reasons should be to comply with legal requirements. 2 legal requirements provide direction for companies interested in being more ethical in their business operations: the U.S. Corporate Sentencing Guidelines and the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. Although they apply only to U.S.-based firms, these legal requirements also provide a model for firms that operate outside the U.S. Slide 9. U.S. Corporate Sentencing Guidelines establish standards and procedures to reduce criminal conduct, assign high-level officers responsibility for compliance, not assign discretionary authority to risky individuals, effectively communicate standards and procedures through training, take reasonable steps to ensure compliance, monitor and audit systems, maintain and publicize reporting systems, enforce standards and procedures through disciplinary mechanisms, and follow detection of offense, respond appropriately, and prevent reoccurrence. We move on to slide 10. Slide 10 talks of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, born from the ethics scandals of Enron, WorldCom, Tyco, which rocked the financial world, seeks to ensure that firms maintain high ethical standards in how they conduct and monitor business operations, requires executives to vouch for the accuracy of a firm's financial reports, requires executives to pay back bonuses based on the earnings that are later proved to be fraudulent. So this kind of puts them on the hook, making them pay back what was taken incorrectly. Also established strict rules for auditing firms. In 2006 and 2007, regulation loosening occurred when the SEC provided more relaxed guidelines to parts of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Also, one of the 5 reasons to prevent or minimize harm: overriding principle that business should do no harm. Examples include not harming society with toxic waste, protecting business from unethical employees and unethical competitors. To promote personal morality, knowing one's work in a supportive ethical climate contributes to sense of psychological security, which is so important, and people want to work for companies that do the right thing. Nobody wants to be associated with companies that misbehave. Why ethical problems occur in business. There are four primary reasons. First, personal gain and selfish interest, competitive pressures on profits, forcing people to behave in an unethical manner, conflicts of interest, and cross-cultural contradictions. Slide 13. A couple of things in figure 4.3. Why ethical problems occur. The reason, personal gain and selfish interest. The nature of ethical problems, selfish interest versus others' interests. Typical approach, egotistical mentality. The attitude is, I want it. Competitive pressures on profits. Firms invest versus others' interests. Bottom line mentality, we have to beat the others at all costs. It's a kill-all, it's a kill or be killed kind of situation. Another one of the reasons we just mentioned before, conflict of interest, nature of ethical problem, multiple obligations or loyalties. Typical approach, favoritism mentality, help yourself and those closest to you. And finally, the cross-cultural contradictions, companies' interests versus diverse cultural traditions and values. Typical approach, ethnocentric mentality. Foreigners have a funny notion of what's right and wrong, which is the attitude that is portrayed in that cross-cultural contradiction. Slide 14, core elements of ethical character. Managers' values. Managers are key to whether a company and its employees will act ethically or unethically. The values held by managers will serve as models for others to work at the company. Differences in ethical stances of the U.S. versus European managers and employees. Younger generation of managers more concerned about ethics, social responsibility. A company's corporate social responsibility performance is a major factor when selecting a new employer for today's graduating MBAs. Move on to slide 15. Spirituality in the workplace. Personal belief in a supreme being, religious organization, power of nature, or some other life-guiding force. Organizations have responded to the increased attention to spirituality and religion at work by attempting to accommodate their employees. Opponents of spirituality at work point to the myriad of implementation issues as grounds for keeping spirituality out of the workplace. Issues include which religion should be promoted and need for recognizing diversity of religious beliefs. They feel like they're opening up a can of worms. Slide 16. Stages of moral development. From childhood to mature adulthood, people move up in their moral reasoning. Earliest stages of reasoning are ego-centered, the me, the baby, very much into themselves. Most developed stages are principle-centered. Most managers make decisions based on criteria in levels 3 and 4, and company executives' reasoning has wide implications both inside and outside the organization. We move on to slide 17. We're going to now talk about stages of moral development and ethical reasoning, figure 4.4, slide 17. Age group, mature adulthood, the development stage, and major ethics referent. This is the highest level. Stage 6, universal principles, justice, fairness, universal human rights, basis of ethics reasoning, principle-centered reasoning. Mature adulthood, stage 5. In that area, moral beliefs above and beyond specific social custom, human rights, social contract, broad constitutional principles. It's, again, a principle-centered reasoning, and that is the basis of that ethical reasoning. In adulthood, stage 4, society at large, customs, traditions, and laws, and the basis of ethics reasoning, society and law-centered reasoning. Early adulthood and adolescence, which is stage 3, social groups, friends, school, co-workers, family. The basis of ethics reasoning is group-centered reasoning. Adolescence and youth, stage 2, reward-seeking, self-interest, own needs, reciprocity. Sounds like it's a few teenagers that I know. Basis of ethics reasoning, ego-centered reasoning. Childhood, stage 1, punishment, avoidance, avoid harm, obedience to power. Again, it is an ego-centered reasoning. We move on to slide 18. Analyzing ethical dilemmas in business. Business managers and employees need a set of decision guidelines that will shape their thinking when on-the-job ethics issues occur. These guidelines should help them identify and analyze the nature of an ethical problem and decide which course of action is likely to produce an ethical result and which not. Slide number 19, 4 methods of ethical reasoning. Virtues, values, and character are critical determining factors. Utilitarian compares benefits and costs of a decision, policy, or action. Costs and benefits can be economic, social, or human. Rights, person or group is entitled to something or be treated in a certain way. Examples of basic human rights are the right to life, safety, and due process. Finally, justice means benefits and burdens are distributed equally according to some accepted rule. We move on to slide 20. 4 methods of ethical reasoning. Method 1, virtues, critical determining factor of values and character. An action is ethical when it aligns with good character and limitations, subjective or incomplete set of good virtues. The next one is utilitarian method, the critical determining factor, comparing benefits and costs. An action is ethical when net benefits exceeds net costs. Limitations, difficult to measure some human and social costs. Majority may disregard rights of the minority. Again, subjective and could be dangerous. The method, rights, the critical determining factor, respecting entitlements. An action is ethical when basic human rights are respected. Limitations, difficult to balance conflicting rights. And the final method is justice, critical determining factor, distributing fair shares. An action is ethical when benefits and costs are fairly distributed. Limitations, difficult to measure benefits and costs, lack of agreement on fair shares. Slide 21. Applying ethical reasoning to business activities. Can use the virtues, utility, rights, and justice framework as a tool to analyze real business ethics dilemmas. Once the ethical analysis is complete, the decision maker should ask the question, do all of the above ethics approach lead to the same decision? If all the answers are yes, the proposed action is ethical. If the answers are no, the action is not ethical and needs to be considered. If yes and no answers are mixed, you must decide which takes priority. Thank you for listening, and thank you for tuning in. Have a great evening.